Good morning on Tuesday, the 31st of December 2024, the last day of the year. It's 8 a.m. in the Gambia and live on West Coast Radio. It's Coffee Time with me, Peter Gomez. Thanks for joining us. And Coffee Time is brought to you in association with partners led by Tough Africa Global, Bloombank Africa, Easy Financial Services, Global Properties, The Gambia Experience, Wave, Bakadaji Hotel, and the U.S. Poultry and Egg Export Council and GAM Food Trading.
Did you know service plots are now available at Baki? Welcome to Baki, Tough City's fourth residential estate.
Yes, service plots available at Baki with 3 years interest-free payment plan with a minimum deposit of only $94,000, and it will come with fence plot, water reticulation, electricity, solar street lights, and bituminized internal roads. Are you ready to build your dream home for yourself?
Call us now.
Around 8:30, I am expecting the Managing Director of the Gambia Ports Authority, Mr. Usman Jobate, to join me with an official of the Al Bayrak group to talk about the port expansion project. But let's start our newspaper review with the point: new ferry promises 24-hour service and investment in Barra. UDP organizes biennial non-elective Congress. Minister Job disburses $1 million among Banjul Central groups, Banjul cultural groups. Presidency is aware of global media landscape transformation. Woman charged with murdering co-wife, and Fajara Golf Course hosts Caddy tournament in honor of Honorable C.D.M. Let. Next, Foroya, NAO challenges Health Ministry to submit mental health bill. Barrow receives special letter from Senegalese President. Soil solution to pilot land restoration project. Residents of NBR hold interface dialogue. Magistrate remands Jalambang woman accused of killing her co-wife. And Halifa Salah's thoughts on constitution building and socio-economic challenges in the Gambia are also reviewed by Foroya. Next, we pick up the Voices front page. Gambia is shackled by culture of wasteful expenditures and mismanagement, says Esafal. Opposition leader says genuine coalition is the only avenue to unseat Barrow. Tenants face unlawful demands despite enactment of 2024 Rent Amendment Act. DPPR says presidency is aware of transformation of media landscape globally. Minister Job spearheads fundraising initiative for celebration of the enchanting Banjul Cultural Festival, and Senegalese Prime Minister appreciates Gambia marble voting system. Really? Finally, this Tuesday's The Standard. Abubakari Jawara named Gambian of the Year. Jawara says Gach paid over $300 million in mining royalties. Modumbub to challenge Dr. Cisse for CA leadership, and Kante, or rather Kande, tells Congress Gambia battling with leadership deficiency. And that was your first look at Tuesday's newspaper front pages. We thank the editors and reporters of The Point, Foroya, The Voice, and The Standard.
The big now Guru mobile app with trust bank. Just a mobile app, the collect smartphone, you don't download mobile app. The two Kumaga, all we don't have in a activities, you bank. Another passport, another mobile app, another passport, mobile app. Another credit top up, another mobile app, credit top up. Unjari another. The Galaga soil advance, attach interest. Container the telephone first, the mobile app. You have ATM, ATM, Banjul Password, income branches all over. You have to Salar advances. One year will be the running man, bank man, without a waste of time. Time is precious. Time is money. Time is money. So Salar advance, one year will be bank. Don't apply to mobile app, right? You don't have Rutan Dialogue, you have to ATM. Arcade ATM, we are the Banjul Password. Salar advance. Jagan kamame magam salar advance. The mobile app is on the mobile app transfer.
It's Tuesday, the 31st of December 2024. It's the last day of the year. Happy New Year, everyone. I am Peter Gomez, and live on West Coast Radio, it's coffee time. Thanks for joining us. Now, there's been much discussion about the integrity of the 2021 election, which gave President Barrow his current second term in office. Several parties, including the GDC and UDP, almost immediately denounced the result after it was declared by the IEC. And the latter even went to court questioning the integrity of the process. Now, as we approach another election, Mbemba Drammeh's extraordinary claims on Kirfatu media last week have only added fuel to the fire, both on account of his allegiance at the time of that election and what he alleges he and others did. But what are we to make of the former NPP foot soldier's claims? Well, speaking on the program yesterday, Dr. Demba Sabali, the NPP first deputy national president, suggested taking a close look at Mbemba's mental health situation. Well, we have another viewpoint to start off coffee time on this last day of the year this morning. And it's from a keen coffee time listener, Kausu N.K. Drammeh of Taibatu Village in Woolly West District, URR. He sent us a written contribution, which is now read for us by Lamin Cham of The Standard.
I think people still did not notice the magnitude of the crime Mbemba Drammeh of France has committed in the Gambia in the last few days. I don't want to preempt the police investigations on the matter, but the allegations could still plunge the country into chaos and political pandemonium. Mbemba's utterances were dangerous and misleading. What we need to realize is that there were regional election observers, international election observers, and independent election observers in the Gambia's 2021 presidential elections who, after the IEC's declaration of results, all endorsed the verdict of the Gambian people giving victory to President Adama Barrow. And this is nearly 4 years ago now. Now, how could someone like Mbemba Drammeh spontaneously appear from nowhere, denounce these results, and describe the election as a rigged one? Well, I think Mbemba Drammeh have taken a bite of something he cannot swallow this time round. Mbemba said he is confident that he and 6 other people manipulated the results of the elections while he was still in France, and that he had in his possession documents that he could tender to substantiate his accusations. According to him, the remaining 6 people who took part in such a manipulation will soon resign from the ruling party, and that he had already written their resignation letters. Analytically speaking, this has nothing to do with partisan politics, but these allegations will force us to question the impartiality and integrity of the Independent Electoral Commission since its inception in 2001. The election observers will equally be questionable for not noticing the fraud tactics during the election process, but someone all the way in France was able to do that. These allegations will give the other opposition losing candidates the ground to cry foul. This is not the main opposition party, UDP, alone, who took the matter to the High Court of the Gambia, alleging election irregularities. However, the High Court still threw the matter out of the windows as it carried no merit. Now, if these fresh allegations by Mbemba Drammeh are anything to go by, where is the impartiality of the judicial system of the Gambia? In a democratic dispensation, Mbemba Drammeh has rights to his fundamental freedom of expression. However, the state also has the legal obligation to investigate and furnish the citizenry with the truth. In the process, Mbemba Drammeh would be the first suspect to help the police in their investigation, and this was why he was arrested, I assume. Was his arrest therefore fair? We have seen that he was told within 72 hours why he was arrested. The state is happy Mbemba Drammeh has his own legal representatives. These lawyers were not provided to Mbemba Drammeh by the state. This implies that justice will be served accordingly without any prejudice. The conclusion is that let no other opposition party claim that Mbemba Drammeh is representing their party's interest in his alleged crimes. He can cross-carpet to any other opposition party of his choice. Yet the allegations are dangerously false and could plunge us into chaotic situations.
And that was Lamin Cham with a contribution by Kausu Drammeh. And Lamin will be back shortly to do the honors on another written contribution. Demba Ali Jawo with advice for President Barrow. It's coffee time with Peter Gomez on West Coast Radio. As we close out 2024, one thing we are guaranteed to take with us into 2025 is the third-term debate. Political opponents and critics of the regime say the danger of the Barrow administration turning into a dictatorship is a very real concern. Aides of the president, though, insist nothing in the constitution prevents Barrow from seeking a third term, and there's enough encouragement from voters for him to run again. But that's not how Coffee Time contributor Demba Ali Jawo sees things. The veteran journalist was Barrow's first pick for information minister, serving for a year and a half from 2017. Here's Lamin Cham again with DA's year-ending essay for Coffee Time, and the same piece will be on his Facebook wall after this airing.
Recently, the Minister of Information, Broadcasting and Media Services, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, acknowledged on Coffee Time with Peter Gomez that about 90% of elections recently held throughout the world were won by the opposition. He gave examples of recent elections in countries like the United States and the United Kingdom, and of course the dramatic regime change that took place in neighboring Senegal. But the same Dr. Ceesay said that the government of President Adama Barrow is not scared of suffering such a fate because it had lived up to the expectations of the Gambian people. But recent indications, including the latest Afrobarometer survey, which said that about 77% of Gambians are not happy with the performance of the Barrow administration, certainly do not seem to corroborate such optimism by the Minister of Information. And we can also recall the performance of the governing National People's Party in both the last legislative and local government elections, in which they were outperformed by the opposition. For example, we saw in the National Assembly elections that throughout the West Coast region and the Greater Banjul area, where more than 70% of the Gambian people resides, the NPP and its ally, the APRC, won only 3 seats out of the 22 constituencies in that area. And out of the total national voter turnout of almost 500,000, the NPP and its allies scored less than 170,000 votes, while the combined opposition, including the independent candidates, scored over 300,000 votes. So, I am sure that the indomitable Dr. Ceesay is aware that under the first past-the-post system of the 1997 Constitution, the candidate who gets just 1 vote ahead of his or her opponents wins the election. And of course, it is quite clear that we are now stuck with the Drammeh Constitution for the foreseeable future, because it's very hard to see how the D A Jawo draft, which gives so much power to the president, would pass the second reading in the National Assembly. Obviously, if President Barrow's sympathizers in the 5th legislature had the audacity to throw away the 2020 draft, which was the outcome of an extensive national and diaspora consultation, then it is not hard to imagine that a similar fate could also happen to the 2024 draft, which mostly caters to the views and aspirations of the Barrow administration rather than those of the general public. Therefore, with all that perception of rampant corruption within virtually all sectors of the public service, and the apparent failure of the government to take any visible steps to cope the situation, including not mustering the courage to set up the long-awaited Anti-Corruption Commission, it would be hard to see how the Barrow administration can escape being sanctioned by the electorate in the 2026 elections. Obviously, the failure of the government to increase the producer price for groundnuts this farming season as well as such situations like the complaints from the farmers of being compelled to download the Q Money app before they will receive payments for their groundnuts, when the vast majority of them do not even have smartphones, are not definitely going to endear them to the NPP. Therefore, the best advice anyone can give to President Adama Barrow is, Mr. President, do not risk running for a third term, because all indications are that the odds are heavily stacked against you. The President should also understand that a majority of those advising him to run again are only interested in continuing being paid from the public coffers, some of them for doing virtually nothing. This is because President Barrow remaining in power is the best guarantee that they would continue to maintain their flamboyant lifestyles at the expense of the Gambian taxpayers.
What do you think? President Barrow will listen to Demba Ali Jawo? Let us know what your thoughts are. 77-11599, 9910-959, or plus 220-9232-333.
Oh.
And live on West Coast Radio, it's coffee time with Peter Gomez. Now, when you think of your closest friend, what stands out the most as to why you are so close? Well, I can talk about mine. Kuku and I are so close because we are brutally honest with each other. I feel I can take to the bank whatever Kuku tells me. Likewise, I've never given him, in more than 40 years of friendship, any reason to doubt whatever I have told him. What about you? Do you have such a friend? Or why don't we ask Alhaji Barrow, since he has access to the airwaves? Alhaji, do you have a best friend, one you can always depend on?
Peter, this morning I want to introduce all our listeners to my best friend. Yes, I have a best friend, and his name is Denial. Let me tell you a little bit about my friend. Denial is a Puritan. He accepts no responsibility and tolerates no excuse. Denial and I have been bosom buddies since our short pant days on the ambivalent roads to life in the Gambia. Denial is overpowering, and with time, he outgrew me and took control of my conscience. I followed him everywhere, and he became my pillar. He dominated our friendship and became my shepherd, guiding me to never take responsibility for anything. I came to rely on my best friend Denial for everything. When confronted with any accusation, I sought comfort and solace in the big, balmy hands of Denial. Regardless of how real my realities are, I always found comfort in the tranquilizing hands of my friend Denial. When told that I am treading ever too close to sycophancy, Denial tells me they are referring to everyone around me, not me. When people suggested I have unresolved emotional issues, instead of seeking help, I roamed around our country in the comforting arms of Denial, shouting at anyone who cared to believe me that I was completely normal. When I was told that I was one of our problems, instead of reflecting and owning up, I found comfort in the big hands of Denial. When I stole things that belonged to no one in particular, guess who told me it is okay to steal since it belongs to no one? My best friend, Denial. He told me others steal too, and they let them get away with it. When they speak of hypocrites, Denial tells me they mean the others because I am a saint, and so they are not referring to me. When they call out the tribalists, Denial tells me they refer to others and not me because I have a friend from another tribe. And when they speak of corruption, Denial tells me they speak of the police in traffic and not my type because my corruption is too sophisticated to be noticed. When they call out religious bigots, Denial told me not to worry because I am only protecting my religion. And when I forged documents to get a little extra money, guess who told me it was all right? My best friend, Denial. Even when sanity abandoned me and I wallowed in squalid conditions, Denial told me it was the fault of fate and that I should continue to pray. Denial told me that I am actually independent, and so I celebrate my independence every year. When they say for the Gambia to rise, the foundation must be dismantled, starting with the minds. Denial tells me they are referring to the minds of others and not mine, because my mind is liberated. Of all my friends, denial is the most reliable and enduring. I know that denial will be there for me when I lie. I know that denial will stand with me when I steal. I know that denial will be there for me when reality abandons me. And I know that denial will be there whenever I falter. I know denial will be there when I am intolerant of others, because denial tells me I am a paragon of virtue and uprightness. Denial tells me that all I need to appear to be truthful is to appear truthful or religious. That all I need to be religious is to appear religious and quote scripture. I know that when I support my family and friends and denigrate others, denial will hail my righteousness. I know that when I wrap myself in the raiment of denial, no truth will ever penetrate me. It feels too good to be in the hands of denial. Nothing is as titillating. I love you, denial. I love you so much. There is so much comfort in denial. My very redemption is enshrouded in denial. And that is why denial is my best friend.
And I'm so disappointed. I thought, Alaji, I was your best friend. That's Alaji Barrow, and we thank him